You think you are strong. You hit the gym 3 times a week. You can deadlift twice your body weight. You ran a half marathon last spring and your friends were impressed. Your skeleton disagrees. A human who lived 100,000 years ago had bones so dense, so reinforced, so overbuilt compared to yours that the difference looks like comparing a steel beam to a plastic straw. Not metaphorically. Literally. The cross-section of their arm bones would make yours look like something from a different species. For nearly all of human history, your ancestors lived a life that made modern professional athletes look like they were on vacation. And the proof is locked inside every bone they ever left behind. In 2014, a team led by Christopher Ruff at Johns Hopkins University published a study that should have changed how you think about your own body. Ruff and his colleagues measured the cross-sectional geometry of arm and leg bones from hundreds of human skeletons spanning the last 40,000 years. What they found was not subtle. Upper limb bones, the humerus, the femur, the bones in your forearms, had been getting systematically weaker for tens of thousands of years. Not slightly weaker. Dramatically weaker. Early humans who lived as hunter-gatherers had arm bones roughly 50 to 70% stronger than the average modern human. Not because they were genetically different, not because they were larger, but because of what they did every single day for their entire lives. Think about that number for a moment. 50 to 70% stronger. In competitive sports, a 1% improvement can be the difference between a gold medal and 5th place. Your ancestors were operating in a category that no modern training program can touch. But it goes deeper than bone density. Peter McAllister, a physical anthropologist at the University of Western Australia, studied a set of 20,000-year-old footprints preserved in the dried mud of a prehistoric lakeshore in New South Wales, Australia. The prints belonged to a group of Aboriginal Australians, mostly teenagers, running at full speed across soft ground. McAllister analyzed the biomechanics. He calculated their stride length, their foot strike pattern, their estimated velocity. His conclusion was staggering. These ancient runners were moving at speeds that would have placed them in the finals of a modern Olympic sprint event. Not the heats, the final. And they were doing it barefoot, across uneven, unpaved ground, without coaches, without nutrition science, without carbon fiber running shoes. Their bodies had simply been sculpted by a lifetime of constant, relentless physical demand that no modern training regimen can replicate. Why were they so fast? Why were their bones so strong? The answer is not genetics. The answer is what a normal day looked like for 99.9% of human existence. Your skeleton is not a fixed frame. It is alive. It reshapes itself constantly in response to the forces you place on it. This process is called bone remodeling. Here is how it works. When you stress a bone, through impact, carrying, climbing, throwing, specialized cells called osteoblasts rush to the stressed area and deposit new bone tissue. The more you demand, the more they build. When you stop demanding, different cells called osteoclasts begin breaking that tissue down. Your ancestors never stopped demanding. From the moment a hunter-gatherer child could walk, their days were a continuous physical gauntlet by modern standards. They walked 8 to 12 miles every single day across rough, uneven terrain. They climbed trees to harvest fruit and honey. They dug into hard, compacted soil with wooden sticks to extract tubers and roots. They carried heavy loads, animal carcasses, water gourds, tools, infants, for miles at a time. They threw spears and stones thousands upon thousands of times over a lifetime. They sprinted. They wrestled. They fought, not for fitness, not for recreation, for survival, every single day, without rest days, without cheat meals. Daniel Lieberman, an evolutionary biologist at Harvard, has spent decades studying the relationship between the human body and physical activity. His research reveals that the human body is essentially an endurance machine. We have an Achilles tendon that stores and releases elastic energy like a spring. We have a nuchal ligament that stabilizes our heads while running. We have enormous gluteal muscles, far larger than any other primate, specifically evolved for sustained upright movement. We have hundreds of sweat glands per square inch of skin, more than any other large mammal on Earth. Our entire skeletal and muscular architecture was engineered for a world that required us to move, constantly, from birth to death. Lieberman calls this the mismatch hypothesis. The idea that our bodies evolved for one world and now live in a completely different one. We are, in his words, exercising to simulate what our ancestors did naturally. Now try to picture what that life actually felt like from the inside. You are a young adult, maybe 20 years old. You live in a small band of 40 people on the East African savanna. The sun has not yet risen, but your body wakes you. There is no alarm, no phone, no schedule. Your circadian rhythm, tuned by millions of years of evolution, simply tells you it is time to move. You stand, your feet calloused wide with thick muscular arches grip the uneven ground. You have never worn shoes. The muscles in your soles are strong and flexible, springs that absorb every impact. You stretch without thinking about it. Your spine rotates freely. Your back does not hurt. Your knees do not ache. There is no chronic pain because your body has been used exactly the way it was designed to be used every day for 20 uninterrupted years. You spend the morning digging. A sharpened hardwood stick drives into compacted earth. Your shoulders, arms, and core absorb the repeated impact. Your bones absorb the force and rebuild. By midday, you have filled a woven carrying bag with wild tubers and roots. It weighs perhaps 30 pounds. You sling it across your back and walk 3 miles to camp. Your spine compresses and decompresses with each stride, staying flexible and dense. Your legs, accustomed to carrying loads across uneven ground since childhood, barely notice the effort. In the afternoon, you join a hunt. This is not a casual jog through a park. This is a persistence hunt. You and 4 others track a kudu, a large antelope, across open savanna under the brutal midday sun. You do not outrun it. You cannot. In a short sprint, it is 3 times faster than you. But it cannot cool itself the way you can. You sweat. It pants. You follow it at a steady, relentless pace, mile after mile, hour after hour, until its internal body temperature rises past the point of collapse. It stumbles. It falls. You sprint the final 100 meters and drive a sharpened wooden spear into its side. This is not a workout. This is Tuesday. Your body at the end of this single day has experienced forces and stresses that no modern gym routine can replicate. And tomorrow, it will do it again. And the day after. And for every day of your life. Each cycle making your bones denser, your tendons thicker, your muscles more efficient, your cardiovascular system more refined. By the time you are 30, your skeleton is a piece of engineering that no modern athlete can match. Not because you trained harder, because you never stopped. So what happened to the rest of us? Here is the twist, and it is counterintuitive. The thing that made us physically weaker was not a catastrophe. It was not a plague or a war or a natural disaster. It was progress. It was agriculture. About 10,000 years ago, humans began farming. On the surface, this looks like the greatest breakthrough in history. You settle down, you grow food. You build permanent shelters. Civilization follows. Cities, writing, medicine, technology. But your body paid a catastrophic price that you are still paying today. A 2015 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences by Timothy Ryan and Colin Shaw examined trabecular bone, the spongy, lattice-like tissue inside your joints, in humans from different eras. Trabecular bone is exquisitely sensitive to physical activity. It remodels faster than the hard outer cortex. When Ryan and Shaw compared early farming populations to the hunter-gatherers who came before them, they found that farmers had dramatically less trabecular bone in their hips and their knees. The shift to agriculture did not just change what humans ate. It changed how they moved. Farming is repetitive. It narrows your range of motion. Kneeling, bending, grinding grain in the same pattern thousands of times. The extraordinary variety and intensity of a hunter-gatherer's day collapsed into a smaller, more repetitive set of tasks performed in a single location. And the skeleton noticed. It started dismantling the infrastructure it no longer needed. Then came industrialization. Then came offices. Then came chairs. Today, the average American takes roughly 4,000 steps per day. A hunter-gatherer takes 15,000 to 20,000. The average modern human spends 9 to 12 hours sitting. Your ancestors spent essentially 0 hours sitting. There were no chairs. Rest meant squatting or lying down, both of which require far more muscular and skeletal engagement than settling into a cushioned seat with lumbar support. The consequence is written into modern medical data. Osteoporosis, a condition where bones become brittle, porous, and fragile, now affects roughly 200 million people worldwide. In hunter-gatherer societies that still exist, like the Hadza of Tanzania, osteoporosis is virtually non-existent. Their elderly maintain bone density that most 20-year-olds in developed nations would envy, not because of superior genetics, because they still live the way your skeleton expects you to live. And here is what is genuinely strange. Modern professional athletes, people who train obsessively, eat optimized diets, work with elite coaches and sports scientists, still do not reach the bone density of average prehistoric hunter-gatherers. Not because athletes are doing something wrong, but because you cannot replicate a lifetime of constant, varied, survival-critical physical demand with a few structured hours of exercise per week. Your skeleton knows the difference. It was not designed for intervals and rest days. It was designed for every day, all day, without exception. Your body is carrying a blueprint for a life you no longer live. Every bone in your frame was shaped by evolution to withstand forces you never subjected to. The density is supposed to be there. The strength is supposed to be there. It is written into every cell in your skeleton, but it only builds in response to demand, and you are not demanding it. So the next time your knees ache on a flight of stairs, or your back stiffens after a day at a desk, or your doctor mentions bone density on a routine scan, remember this. You are not broken. You are not weak because of your genes. You are not aging wrong. You are a world-class machine operating at a fraction of its designed load. Your ancestors would look at your skeleton and see someone who was barely using it. You think you are strong. Your ancestors were something else entirely. And the bones you are standing on right now remember that, even if you do not.